This podcast is dedicated to the celebration and preservation of the working Australian Shepherd. Your Aussie is descended from a proud and amazing lineage of hard-working ranch dogs, identified and cultivated primarily in the Wild West. Contrary to the breed name, the Australian Shepherd is actually an American breed success story. Only in America can a blue-eyed, scruffy dog rise from the dust of the American ranch to become one of the most popular breeds in the world today. The Aussies' beauty, brains, and incredible work ethic and almost empathic connection with their human charges make them unforgettable and pivotal members of the family. My goal is to help you understand this amazing breed, learn more about their heritage and their physical and mental needs so that together we can preserve the working Aussie by encouraging better breeding and better vetting of future Aussie owners, ultimately keeping Aussies with their families and out of shelters. Welcome to the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Instinctive Australian Shepherd podcast. This is Jacque Tinker, your host. I have, as usual, an exciting guest today. Kallie Bongtrager works with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, and she uses her Aussies to do some really cool stuff. So I'm going to introduce her, and we're just going to start talking about dogs, as we normally do, and the cool jobs that our Australian Shepherds can do. So first of all, Kallie, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to being able to talk to you about this.
Yeah, it's exciting. I came across your story probably a few months ago, and I marked it down. Hey, I need to try and get a hold of her, and I couldn't figure it out. I did some searches and I couldn't find your contact information. And then I realized I have a virtual assistant, and he's pretty good. So I sticked him on you and said, hey, see if I can find her contact information. And he found it right away. So, but I've been following you from afar because there was a post on social media that led to, I believe it was an interview somewhere about your Australian Shepherds and how they work with you. So, first of all, how did you get into working for the DNR and what's your job?
I have been working for the DNR Division of Entomology and Plant Pathology for 26 years.
Wow.
So I'm a nursery inspector and compliance officer, and that just basically means anybody in Indiana that is growing plants to sell is supposed to be inspected once during the growing season. Anybody that's just reselling plants, they have to have a license too, but we don't inspect them as often except for somebody that's bringing a lot of plant material in what we call the big box stores. We do them a lot because they always bring in stuff they're not supposed to. And then dealing with any plant diseases, people can call me, or insect problems, things like that. We do several different kinds of surveys throughout the year. So I kind of got through this having worked, I graduated from Purdue University with a wildlife science degree. There were no federal jobs, and that's kind of where I was headed. I had worked for an entomology professor, got to know some nursery growers up in the northwest part of the state. So I ended up working for one of them for about 8 years, and well, maybe probably not quite that long,
Hmm.
maybe probably 5 years. And then the guy that was the nursery inspector for my territory told me there was an inspector job opening up in the north central, which is where I was from, north central part of Indiana. So it kind of went from there. And then he retired, and I still was in the northwest part of the state. So I took over his territory, and it's kind of rolled on from there.
Awesome. So, when you're an inspector, what is your goal of your job? Why are you inspecting? What are you looking for? What kind of issues pop up that you need to prevent?
We're really trying to consider it a service, at least I do, because we're looking for general insect problems, disease problems that I can go back and tell the nursery owner or his manager and say, hey, listen, these are the problems you got. You might need to take care of it now. Or if we come across something that is bad enough that he shouldn't be selling it. It's a disease that he's not supposed to sell. The plant material is supposed to be free of insect and plant pathogens if he's going to sell it. So that's part of what we do. We also do a lot with invasive species, insects, and not quite so much with the invasive species plants, though we do deal with what we call terrestrial plant law. And in Indiana, there's a whole list of plants we don't want people to buy, sell, grow, any of that stuff. So we are on the lookout for that a lot, and we have to tell them if we find it that they have to get rid of it. Or if we find out that somebody brought in plants from out west that had a disease that we don't want. We track those plants down and do all the
Yeah.
paperwork to have them gotten rid of and things like that. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
outside a lot, which is great. I love being outside. I'm not a sit in front of the computer person.
Oh, me either. Drives me crazy. I just walk by
Yeah.
my office sometimes and cringe and go, I don't want to go in there. I want to
I
be
tend, yeah,
outside.
I tend to try and keep looking for things so I don't have to. Oh, look, I need to finish this survey. Oh, darn. That's why I'm
Yeah.
stuck in the office right now because I haven't done what I should have been doing.
Well, hey,
Plus, the weather's crappy.
oh, yeah, we still have good weather down here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
well, look, just tell me that in June. We'll talk again in July and August.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
and then you'll be
It's
thinking better thoughts about it.
it's
Yeah.
not horrible. I mean, it's just kind of drizzling. It's like 40, 45. But a few weeks ago, I had a foot of snow,
Oh, wow.
which was crazy for the beginning of November. I don't usually have snow that early,
Yeah.
but we did.
Wow. Wow.
But
Well,
then it all melted.
I remember growing up in Minnesota on Halloween, we always had a snowstorm almost every
Yeah, of
Halloween.
course. Of
And then
course.
once it hit the ground, it would stay white or gray because it's dirty snow until, late March, mid-March,
Yeah.
April. And
Yeah.
that doesn't happen anymore. So
No,
it's
it
different.
doesn't.
So,
Yeah, it is. Because I remember that growing up too, where, once it snowed, it usually wasn't that early because I was still in further south than you. But
hmm
yeah, we'd get snow, maybe this time of year. We're always hoping to have it for Christmas and then, yeah, it'd stay. But yeah, we get a lot of lake effect snow where I'm at. But a
hmm
lot of times, like, even if it's snow now, the ground isn't frozen. So it just melt
Yeah. Hmm.
and be sloppy.
Crazy weather. So enter the Australian Shepherds. You work with your Aussies every day, which a lot of people would are envious of the ability to work with their dogs every day or most days or however you do that. Talk about how your dogs came into it and what they do.
I have a absolutely fabulous boss. That's how it came about. She's amazing, and she's very well aware that I am all things dog. They are my hobby. I love spending time with my dogs. I love doing new things. Agility is my love, but we do some obedience, rally obedience. I'm just dabbling in herding. I'm not very
Mhm.
good at it. And my young dog keeps looking at his breeder, my friend who gives us lessons, and says, "Can't I just stay with you and you know what you're doing?" And she laughs at me and she says, "No, you got this." And he's like, "No, she really doesn't." But I find I really have a lot of fun with that. So I've had Australian Shepherds just pretty one to three at a time, one to three at a time from like 2001, 2002. I'm trying to think when my first one I got was might have been in 2001. And it was a friend who was my mentor as far as training, obedience training, because at that time I hadn't had an Akita and I
hmm
was determined to do stuff with him. I loved my Akita. He was great. So she was a great mentor. And then she had a litter and she said, "You really need a dog that you don't have to work so hard to convince to want to work for you." So yeah,
Yes.
that's how I jumped into that. And I haven't looked back from there. I currently have three. Q is my retired dog now. He's 13. He was my son's agility dog, and for a little while, junior showmanship, till my son said, "Nah, I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah.
But he continued to do his agility up until we retired him at the Nebraska Nationals last year.
Hmm.
They had their last run, and it was bittersweet to watch him run.
Yeah.
But and then I had to retire Q from working with me because he had some health problems and he never bounced back really well from those. I mean, he's okay, but not to where he can be out in the field.
hmm
Epic is 8. He's my main dog now to be out in the field, and I'll kind of explain that here in a minute. And then River is my 2-year-old dog, and it's actually Epic's nephew, and he's just starting to get out in the field. So,
Hmm.
my
Cool.
boss, yeah, my boss a few years ago sent me a video of a dog down in North Carolina that was looking for spotted lanternfly, which is the invasive insect that my dogs I've trained and am training my dogs on. And of course, my mind goes, "Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I love seeing a dog work. I love
hmm
that whole idea." And I've got friends that do nose work and they've done nose work for a while now. And I messed around with it, but not a whole lot because at the point I was in my life, if I was going to do something, I was going to do agility first. That's where my time could go if I had time to do anything.
hmm
So my dogs, Epic and Q, learned how to find like the typical nosework cocktail stuff. But that was it. So I got a hold of them and said, "Hey, listen, do you guys think you could help me do this?" And they were like, "Oh yeah." So I called my boss and I said, "Hey, listen, can I try this? What do you think?" And she goes, "Oh, I think that'd be great." So that's started my journey, and it was very interesting because the scent that my dogs work on is the actual eggs of the insect,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what we call the odor cone is very small
Mm.
compared to what they do in nose work and scent work. Where they use the essential oils, and you and I can
Yeah.
smell it.
Yeah.
So and then the fact that at the time when I started doing this, the only place it was in Indiana was in southern Indiana, in one little tiny little county, and that was a 5-hour drive for me. So I had to figure out how to train them, and we started off with, oh my gosh, I can't really transport these egg masses without making sure they are not viable anymore.
Right.
So we froze them like super freeze and killed the eggs
Mm-hmm.
and trained my Q and Epic on those. And we muddled through. They are, thank God they're the dogs they are, because they put up with
Yeah.
my trying to figure things out. We got them figured out. They were doing really good, in practice. And then I went out in the field and we were struggling. They couldn't seem to figure it out. So I got around to talking to some people, actually ended up talking to somebody up in New York with the New York Trail System, I think that's what it's called, that
Mm-hmm.
had done some work. And I told her what I was doing, and she was like, "You're using dead eggs?"
Yeah.
Well, I kind of had to. And she goes, "Yeah, that's your problem. They smell totally different." So she got me. Yeah, so of course I was like, "Oh my gosh, my poor
Mm.
dogs."
Yeah.
My poor dogs. So she told me to get something, they're called Get Scent tubes. And
Yeah.
they're these little tubes that absorb the odor of
Mm.
whatever you put them with. So then I went to that. Then a place about 2 hours from me popped up on the radar. And so I was able to do some training there. And, we came back around, and yeah, that helped a lot. But there's still, even with what I collect egg masses, and I just put them in my freezer, which isn't going to be any colder than outside, because
Mm-hmm.
the eggs are around from now, actually from like September all the way through May, June-ish. They start hatching out depending on where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So my stuff comes in and out. I've got the Get Scent tubes. I've got just eggs. I've got eggs on bark. So I've got the whole 9 yards. But my stuff gets really old by the time the next season rolls around. And it tends to be stuff that was collected towards the end of the season. So from the time the eggs are laid to the time they hatch, the scent changes a little bit,
Right. Right.
especially towards the end as the insect inside matures. So that's been all those little things that I didn't think about when I started this whole crazy thing. So going out in the field is still a little tricky sometimes. I've had to step back and realize that even though, yes, they're doing great on what I've got, and we're working in the house or working at the park with, a piece of an egg mass or a get set tube or something that's holding the eggs so the eggs don't fall out and hatch out somewhere where I've
Mm-hmm.
trained, which is my biggest fear, that
Right.
it pops up somewhere at some park and I go,
That was
"Oh,
my fault. Oops.
oops, never mind. I was never there." So
Yeah. Yeah.
even this year, going back into the field, we just got back in the field for a couple weeks ago, and Epic was struggling a little bit, but he was hitting on hatched eggs, the remains of the eggs, which that's what he learned on 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
was dead egg masses. And I'm like, "That's awesome, but I'd really like you to find." So we worked through that a little bit, and that's one of those things. And River is just now learning how to find them out in the field like that, where they're literally the real thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've done a couple step backs. I wanted him to do a down because I wanted to be sure that he know that that's what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Epic does what I call a freeze and dance. He stands and looks over his shoulder, looks at me and stares at me and dances a little bit
Yeah.
when he finds it. And there's sometimes I'm not sure if he's on the fringe, or so we play a little game to see how, if he's going to stay there. But right now, if River thinks he's found it, and if he stops and looks at me, I'm right there. Yep, that's it. You're
Yeah.
right. You got it. You're right here. And so, yeah, Does that cover everything? Does that kind of tell
Yeah.
you?
Well, it's a big journey, right?
It's huge.
Yeah, and the indication is super important to train properly so that you can find everything that they're looking at.
Right.
What damage does the lanternfly do? Why is it important that you find them?
It tends to go after fruit trees, grapevines. It's really a pest on tree of heaven, which is a huge invasive tree anyways. But usually where they are, there's wild grape growing. And so they suck the juices out of the plant and then they produce what we lovingly call honeydew, which comes out of them, which is a very sugary substance. And that will grow a mold on it that can cause cover leaves and cause the photosynthesis to drop, stress out the trees. In urban, suburban areas, it's a really messy insect because of that. And it
Hmm.
also attracts anything that likes that kind of sugary substance, hornets, wasps, bees. It'll bring those all in because they'll feed on that honeydew.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and it's the grapes tend to be really hit hard when they're being attacked. So anybody, the vineyards have been pretty concerned about it. So it tends to be a lot more of a nuisance, at least for what we're dealing with.
Right.
So, but it can stress out the trees and stuff. And for the, at least around here, when the honeybees start feeding on that honeydew from that comes out of our spotted lanternflies, the honey that they produce has a really weird taste.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's been, yeah, we've got one, there's only like 15 people in my division. And one of them, besides being a nursery inspector, he's also our apiarist. So he checks out anybody that has to have a license to move their hives around. So he brought it to our division meeting last year and I thought it was disgusting. So
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
It was not my cup of tea at all. Though he said he's got guys that are selling pretty good on it as a specialty or a something like that. And I'm like, no,
Oh.
thanks. And I guess some of the grapes that have been fed on make the wine taste kind of weird. So yeah, there's things that go along with those that that can cause problems.
So where did it originate from? The lanternfly.
It is native to China.
Ah,
And we're pretty sure that it came over on big landscaping rocks from China into Pennsylvania.
ah,
And then from Pennsylvania, it kind of looks like it follows the railroad, like they're hitchhiking on the railroad lines,
huh.
because a lot of the places we're finding it when it first crops up is near railroads. And this insect will lay its eggs on anything.
Huh. So do you collect when you find them, do you have like a big procedure you do to get rid of them, or you just like spray them with the poison, or what do you do?
The eggs break really easy.
Mm.
So this time of year we're out with paint scrapers if we're trying to kill them and we're just scraping them off and they bust.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which for me makes it a little more difficult if I'm trying to collect eggs because I don't want smush smelling
Right.
training eggs. I need live eggs. So I do a lot of very carefully with gloves and a fingernail trying to just flip them off of the bark into a jar. And yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's usually what we do. We do some treatments of the actual tree of heaven if we found it. We have to wait until after it's flowered so that we don't have any problems with any pollinators that might be feeding on the
Mm-hmm.
flowers. So yeah, and they do a basal bark treatment that is an insecticide that'll kill whatever's feeding on the tree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we've just started doing that the last couple of years. It's like I think we're up to 17 counties now here in Indiana.
Wow. How often do your dogs get to go to work, and how often do you guys go out in the field and look for this stuff? It sounds like it's kind of seasonal when you're doing the most hunting.
Yeah, it really kind of depends what my colleagues need from me. I usually this time of year I'm usually at least 2 or 3 days a week doing some of this, probably more because now that I've got for a while I didn't have anybody in my territory. I hadn't found any, but now it's popping up more in my territory, so I can do more work if nobody needs me somewhere else. Because the idea is that I would go in and be on the edges of where we think it is and survey and see how far out a population might be. because if I take my dogs in an area where it's just loaded with egg masses, they can't, they're in odor, but
Mm-hmm.
they can't pinpoint it. And it's really frustrating for them.
Right.
It's better for me to go on an area where, hey, we had Mr. Smith call and say, hey, I think I found spotted lanternfly here. I found an adult in my drive, whatever. Then I can go out and take the dogs. And first thing I'll do is look, how close are you to a rail yard, or how
Oh,
close are you
yeah.
to railroad tracks or something like that. And then I look for tree of heaven. And then that'll be the first thing I check. Or I'll look for, okay, do you have a camper? Did you get plants from out of, those kind of things. So, but even during the off season, I tend to take the dogs with me because I'll continue to train. We'll continue management training.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll stop and do an inspection, and depending on how long the inspection is going to be, I might put out the odor so that it's sitting there for a while. So when I bring the dogs out, I can just at least take 10-15 minutes to run them through that so that they are keeping up to date on what they're doing.
Yeah, really. So do you have any cool stories? Like big finds, or I don't know, it's like a drug bust or anything like that, but like, do you have any cool
Um,
stories or challenging stories puzzles your dogs have solved?
I guess the biggest thing that always amazes me, I don't know if it's really a story, though, it's learning to trust my dog and believe him when he says it's somewhere that I can't see it. That's the hardest thing, I think. So I'd gone out, it was this year, it was a few weeks ago when we first got out in the field. And Epic has a tendency that if he doesn't start finding it relatively soon, like within about 5 or 10 minutes, he starts just stopping at every tree of heaven. And he stops
Ah,
and he looks at me like, here? And because this dog is very, 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 very treat motivated, over the top treat motivated.
yeah,
Like he would do anything for anybody that had a treat.
yeah.
So, then that's his pay. He gets food. That's his big payout, man. And he
Mm-hmm.
gets a big payout when he finds it. So he was out, and and I knew there were egg masses in the area because I'd gone and checked so that I would, I was kind of amping up to being able to be out in the field and look where I wasn't sure it was. And he was looking around and starting to play a little bit of like, here it is. And I'm standing back. He gets to be off leads, and I'm standing back, letting him figure out where it is. And he was working up and down this great big tree, and I'm looking at him. I know there's right next to it, within about 3 feet of this big tree, there's an egg mass at the base of a smallish tree. So I'm just waiting for him to figure it out. And I'm thinking, okay, the wind's blowing that way. He's fringing, da da da. No big deal. So he finally works his way around. He looks at me a couple times, and he finally works around to the small tree, and really then he gives me a good indication. I'm like, oh, good boy. I don't know what you're doing. You're a dork. So
Yeah.
um, I put him away. And now that I knew that, I brought River out, which is my young dog. And this is really the first time I really said, here, we're going to go with fairly close to where this egg mass is. But I'm going to let you show me what, you take the lead. You're going to do it. So he's got to be on lead. He's still pretty prey driven. So a squirrel, a rabbit, a groundhog, something like that might draw his attention pretty easy. So to be safe, he stays on a long line, and he starts doing the same exact thing that Epic was doing, checking out this big tree and back and forth. And I looked at it a couple times real quick, and I had somebody that was videoing River's training because I try and video as much of his training as I can. And she didn't see anything. And he finally stopped at the tree, moved around the little tree, came back, stopped, and then looked at me. I'm like, yes, good boy. Like I said, he gets rewarded for just stopping and saying, yeah, this is it, I think. So I rewarded him as I'm sitting down there because it was at the base. I was on my knees rewarding him. I look over this big tree, and there's a big hole from a woodpecker, and there's an egg mass sitting inside that hole. And I was like, oh, so
Oops.
yeah. Yeah. And we went over, I told him he was a good boy. I got out, we played tug. He gets to play tug with me, because I really worked on building his toy drive so that we can
Hmm.
interact a lot more with just food. And, we were playing a little bit. So put him away, came back, and the person that was helping me video managed to pry off a piece of bark, and there were like 3 or 4 egg masses underneath the bark. So those two, both of them, could smell it through that bark and the cracks in the bark and stuff. And that's why I always laugh. I'm like, oh, come on, Callie, trust your dog.
Yeah. Yeah, I did tracking with my dogs, and I think that
Okay.
was the hardest thing. was to trust your dog. Just let go and trust your dog because you can't see
Yeah,
it and you can't
right.
smell it. But I
Yeah.
get it. I feel for you on that one because that is just really a hard thing to do, to trust that dog.
Yeah. And he did have a find here in my home county of LaPorte, because we had somebody say they'd found and took a picture of an adult and sent it out to the guy that does the survey. And he was coming over my way to do some work up near Lake Michigan in Gary, Indiana. He said, "Well, I'll swing past this little through here and see if I see anything." I'm like, "Okay," because I didn't have time to do it before he was going to come up and help me out. And he met me, and no, I didn't find anything. But if you got time, send Epic through there. And turn at the end of the day, the next day, I think I went over there, and it's never really good. I don't just have like a stretch of trees. It doesn't seem like it was along the railroad. So there's a lot of concrete and junk and tall weeds and tree of heaven trying to walk through stuff. So I let Epic go on through there, and he did find an egg mass in that. So that was pretty cool. That was what I would consider his first real, nobody else had found this,
Hmm.
county find. So that was pretty cool. But there are times where my job is not so much to say I'm going to take care of this egg mass, because I'm not going to demotivate. I feel like that's going to demotivate my dogs.
Hmm.
But if we're in an area that they're working hard and they're in odor and still not working at pretty, 5 or 10 minutes, and they haven't found anything but are still in odor, I put a tag on that and I move them on. Hey, good boy, let's go. And we move on to the next spot down. And then I let my colleagues know, hey, listen, this, you need to check this spot, or I'll go back and check. And there's been several times where they've gone back through and said, hey, yeah, we did find something. So that always makes me feel good that I kind of know that he's actually working. And Epic's done that to me several times where he couldn't pinpoint it. And then somebody else came in, I'm like, yeah, it's there. I just don't know where it is. And I don't want to make him keep working for nothing.
Right, right.
So I moved him on, and then I had him a little bit further from that down, and he hit on a tree, and he's like, it's right here. And I'm looking at this tree. I'm like, I don't see anything. And I'm about 10 or 15 foot away from him because I'm kind of moving along, just watching him. And I walk up to the tree, and sure enough, just right above his head where he's at is an egg mass. And I'm like, oh yeah, good boy. So he gets a huge jackpot and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, a lot of our, like I said, a lot of our stuff is just working on the edges, or seeing if, trying to figure out where these weird ones that just show up at somebody's house are coming from.
Yeah. So I guess the people in Indiana are pretty attuned to it and they're looking for this lanternfly, so you get calls from people or
Yeah, slowly, it's starting to happen. We've done a lot. Purdue Extension has done a lot of outreach with that. I am lucky enough that I can do a lot of outreach with my dogs. That's part of my job. So we'll go and give demos. Like I've given a demo up at the Indiana Dunes State Park a couple times. I've given, master gardeners, I give them demos. So usually slowly it gets around, and yeah, somebody finds it. Or there's a whole 1-800 exotics number for that will take somebody's voicemail, and it can be
hmm.
for anything they find, and then we look at it and see what it is and see if we can find it. So yeah, it's slowly getting there. Yeah, and that's a lot of what I do during the off season too, is a lot of outreach. And because most people like dogs and they think it's really cool that, look at what the dog can do, isn't that a cute dog, and that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, it's a great way to tell a story because,
Yeah, it is. It is.
awesome.
And yeah. And my boss is great, because she says, even if they never ever found one, look at how much outreach and how much good they've done doing this. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the point.
Yeah, I
At
know.
least not for me.
Wait a minute. Those of us have Aussies, we're overachievers. We're all like,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to finish the job, kind of like our dogs.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We
Uh,
just, you're trusting me to do this. I get to take them with me. I've got my work vehicles all decked out with crates and everything.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's the good thing, is they are my dogs. I did all the training, where I don't know if any of the other states that have done that yet. Most of them have bought their dogs already, at least
Mhm.
trained to search,
Right,
and then have bought them from the USDA usually. And then they get a handler, and the handler learns how to handle them. And depending on what the criteria is, and those dogs might or might not live with that handler. So,
right, right. I think
yeah,
that's it's an interesting area of work for dogs that a lot of people don't know about. The
yeah,
USDA has dogs, they target them on different scents. They train them to work all
right.
kind of different things that they're looking for. And one of the problems with our world getting smaller, it makes it a lot more convenient for us, but it also causes a lot of problems that a lot of people don't realize. Plants coming in from invasive species coming in from various different
Yes.
places. So, yeah.
It
Eh,
is amazing. I mean, I'm always listening, looking for what can I do next. It's listening to dogs that are finding plant diseases or finding an endangered tiny little 2-inch plant or fungus, or, I was looking at a new insect to possibly train one of my guys on, probably Epic because he's more detailed. And when I talked to the guy that has the dog in Pennsylvania, because I was trying to figure out what he used, how he got his get scent and got the odor on it. He said, wait, he goes, we're having lots of issues getting them into the field. And he goes, if I were you, I would wait until we figure it out and then you don't have to work so hard. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I mean, it's
yeah,
good
because
that
it's
y'all
not,
can work together and
yeah,
collaborate on some things.
yeah, and it's not something, I mean, that's really that, I mean, Ohio's got it, Michigan's got a little bit, but again, all the places that I might go are 3 or 4 hours away, even if I was trying to figure out how to do a get scent tube.
Hmm.
It's a caterpillar that feeds on one particular kind of plant that's very smelly too. The plant itself is very smelly. So yeah, I'll be curious. I haven't talked to him for about a month. I'll be curious to see if he's getting anything figured out,
Yeah,
or if
really.
I just need to look to the next one and see what's on the horizon. And
I don't think there's any end of invasive bugs and
no, there's
plants,
not.
unfortunately.
No,
I think you're going
no.
to be able to find a bunch to work on.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, I really like I said, it gets me outside and I get to work with my dogs, and
Hmm.
I do have a lot of fun just watching them figure out, what they're doing. River, my young dog, he's figuring it out. He's just growing some brains, and he's really working hard. He's not sure quite yet what the excitement is about, except he's figured out once the harness is out that, yeah, we're gonna go, this is okay, this is fun. We're gonna go search, because if I find something, gonna get to play then.
Yeah.
So,
And I think
and
Australian Shepherds are unique. These working breeds, I think working
yes,
breeds and herding breeds in general
yes,
are unique in the fact that once they figure out they have a job, they become very serious about it and very dedicated to it.
yes,
Of course, they work for the reward, but they have like a level of maturity that comes along with that. I have a job, it's my job to do this, and it's my job to do that. And Aussies are very bossy and like they like their little
yeah.
territory, you know?
Right, yeah, and Rivers being more cautious than we thought he might be out in the field, but I'm okay with that. I'm like, he was 2 in June, I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
let him, yeah, he's still trying, if he's out there trying to work, and if he's out there and he's not trying to work, then we're just gonna say, okay, not today. But so far he's been pretty good about it. He's figuring
Yeah.
it out. So,
Well, you know,
you know,
dogs
the,
don't generalize for quite some time. They see things in pictures, and you have to show them a lot
right.
of pictures before they can then
Yes.
generalize. So you have
Right.
to be like, okay, this is this picture, this is this picture. You show them 100 pictures, and then all of a sudden, okay, I can
Oh,
generalize and add it to new situations and all that. But
yeah.
it takes this whole process for them to do that, and it's time, it takes time and miles,
Yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely. And he has a habit of grabbing, mouthing whatever it is, like the
Ah,
piece of bark, or if I've used a tin, or I've got a fake piece of, looks like a piece of limb that we've stuck the get set tubes in or whatever. So when I was training him, he got in the habit of, he'd come out and he'd be looking for the training aid, because I couldn't
ah,
just put out a piece of bark with an egg mass on it, have him grab it and scatter that egg mass everywhere.
right.
So it was interesting when I had him out earlier this week, and he found the piece of bark and he put his mouth on it and he was like, "Ooh, yuck!" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, that doesn't," which was great. I'm like, "Yep, that doesn't taste too good, does it?" And we're in a county that it's already there because that's where we were working, and we knew it was there. But that was kind of, I'm like, "Good. I want you to figure out that you're not supposed to put your mouth on it."
yeah, right.
Yeah. So that was kind of it was fun to watch him go, "Yeah, yeah."
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is super fascinating. I just love this. Do you ever post any of your videos on YouTube, or do you have any other like a website just for the dogs or any kind of media like that?
I've got some of River's stuff on YouTube. So, but as far as, posting a lot of, as them having their own training site, no, I am not very tech savvy at all. So, yeah, just the fact that I could actually get it on YouTube and that was just because my son helped me with that. He's like, "Oh, come on, this is easy." I'm like, "Really?" No,
At
for
some point.
18-year-old you, it's easy. For me, I'm lucky that I can get it to YouTube now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at some point we all just jump off the technology train and say that's the last stop I'm going on, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I will stay there. Well, I really appreciate you spending your time this afternoon and getting with me and talking about your dogs and sharing your stories with them. And I always just love it. I love it when people are doing things that are instinctive with their dogs. You
Yes.
can show them this odor
Oh yeah.
thing and you can show them this, but it's all them. Like it's all their abilities in their nose and their motivation and them understanding. How do you teach something you can't see? It's really
Oh yeah.
fascinating to me, and it's so fascinating to me how intelligent they are and how they pick up on it.
Yeah, and the whole odor cone thing where it's so small, it's, teaching my guys to be a little more detailed than just running out there and
Mhm.
just running amok. They kind of have to think about and that's part of my job is making sure they cover an area well.
Yeah.
Where Epic has gotten very detailed. And so he's pretty good about it. River's still trying to figure that out. We're finding out that yes, I caught him kind of following the same path Epic and I had gone earlier. Like,
Uh-oh.
I'm like, that's kind of cheating, but okay. So I'll have to work on just wandering around the area before I let him out, apparently.
Yeah, let him do it first. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, or let him do it first. And I've done that. I did that last training session to just say, okay, now you can't just follow where we've walked. You've got to, and
Well, it
I
just
get that. I
tells
mean, that
you.
makes, he's
Just tells
smart.
you. Well, it tells
Yeah,
you, yeah, and it tells you the picture he has is a little bit off, and you just have to fix the
yeah,
picture. And
yeah,
it's cool that you noticed that. You're like, oh yeah, we just need to fix the picture with them. And again, teaching them to do something invisible, find something
yeah,
basically invisible, because you can't smell it or find it or
right.
even know, what's
For
actually
sure.
going on there, right?
Yeah,
It's
and
cool. It's so cool.
it was fun because he's my third one, so he gets the benefit of all the
Uh-huh.
up I've done. And we found out with Q, my 13-year-old dog, that if I did Epic first on training, the pheromone dump that happens as they're finding it, that's what Q would cue in on. He would just walk out there and find out. He'd walk right to where Epic had been
Oh, wow.
because he could smell that. That's what I think. Because I wouldn't wait long enough for it to dissipate. So then I needed to make sure I either had a separate training spot or took the time to make sure 15, 20 minutes, half hour gone by before I take him out, which kudos to him for being that smart to figure that part out.
Yes.
But yeah, he is they're all
Huh.
smart. They're all very smart. But yeah, I'm always amazed, and just when I think I got it figured out, they're like, nope, we're gonna try it this way.
Right. Well, and I want to bring up something that, you mentioned sort of on the side of, the third dog gets the benefit of all your other dogs. And I hear a lot of people in everything, every sport, herding, tracking,
Any of
everything.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I messed up my first dog and I messed up my second dog, or I did this. I'm like, wait a minute. You made mistakes, but you learned from them. And that dog had its place in your life to train you and to teach you
Yeah.
things and had lessons for you to learn. And so a lot of people feel bad about it, but I don't think the dog feels bad about it because you were spending time with them. They don't have hold grudges and think about what a terrible handler that person is. You know what I mean? So you remember that.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
I tell this to
absolutely.
my herding students because herding is extremely difficult. It's
Oh,
of the
gosh.
sports, it's
Yes.
such a hard
The
sport because
hardiest. I think it's the hardest one there
yeah,
is. It's
I
so hard.
agree 100% because you're dealing with a different kind of pressure release communication. You're dealing with moving parts, individual animal brains, and every time
Oh,
you work in different stock, it's different situations. It's very different. So I always
yeah.
tell people like you were successful in this other thing in your life, right? Like I have, pro archers and I have like you've trained
Yeah.
on another thing and you became very good at it. And so I say, look, embrace the suck, right? Like you're gonna suck
Yep.
for a while,
Yes.
but embrace it and understand that that'll go away and you'll get through it
Yep.
because you've done it before. It's the same thing with your dogs, right? We're creating a
Yep.
different picture for ourselves. Hey, we've done this before. We can get through it again. And those dogs, instead of, I would recommend to people who do this, because a lot of people do, they're like, oh, I feel so bad about my first dog. I'm like, no, just tell them thank you because they loved
Yep.
every second they were with you. Every
And I
second
don't,
of it they
yeah,
loved. They didn't feel any harm out of
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. And I don't feel super bad. I just know I can solve I'm better at reading my dogs
Of
and I think,
course.
oh, you poor dog. But yeah, he would go back out with us anytime he could. Now, would he actually go and do what he's supposed to be if he sees a groundhog hole? No, he probably would go check out the groundhog hole. But he's old and he can do what he wants.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
He's
it
earned that right.
was, yes, it was interesting. We were at an ASCA trial show in July. And they were doing nose work there too. And I'd gone up to mainly do some performance, some obedience, and some rally. And that's pretty much what I was going to do. I wasn't doing any confirmation that day. And I thought, this is stuff. I should see if Q could do this because we'll see if he still remembers how to find this. Oh, heck yeah. They had one of their practice boxes out. I sent him to him. He's like, heck yeah, boom. And he stepped on it. That's just the way he is.
Right.
So I went ahead and put him in and he qualified in both of it was just containers and man, he just whipped right through. He said, yep, here it is. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, you're such a good boy. And he was 12 and a half at that time. So he was like, yeah, this is so cool.
oh,
So that was fun with him for him to go out and say, yeah, this is fun. Now, can I get my cookies?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm so smart. Give me my food. Well, and
Yeah.
just to remind everyone that's listening, Aska now has their own scent detection. I don't know what they call it, scent find or find. What do they call it?
I don't know. I think it's just scent work, I think, but I'm not going to swear to that.
No,
I
it
would just
has its
kind of,
own thing because they're
oh, does
afraid
it
it
have it?
sounds like somebody else's program.
Right.
Search find or find scent. I don't know what it is. Anyway,
Something. Yeah.
Aska has their own program that you could trial, and it's very similar to the other like nose
Yeah.
work programs like UKC and all that, where they have boxes and then they have different areas to search. And so y'all can check out the aska.org website and find out about the program. The rule books are right there, and the odors. They use most of the same odors, but I think it's been a while since I talked to anybody about it, but there's one different odor they use. But
Yeah.
they use the essential oils. And guys, this is like a really hot, up and coming, super popular sport
Mm-hmm.
in all breeds, not just Aussies. So you should be able to find a trainer in any major
Oh,
city
yeah.
that you guys have. And I actually interviewed one of the best in the country, but unfortunately we had bad connection, and so I have to redo that interview. But I
Oh,
know she's amazing. But we're lucky to have some of the best here in Texas. And you
no.
can
Yes.
find, people like Cameron Ford is a big one, and he
Yep.
does like law enforcement stuff, but he's very big on the science of the search. And
Yeah.
you can search Google and find just tons of videos and information on this. So if anyone that's listening is interested in doing something with your dog that doesn't require, like, you can do this training in your house. You can set searches up in your
Mhm.
house. You don't have to in your yard, in your actual house, and do these things with your dogs, and you don't have to go anywhere. Or it's always good to get instruction and go to classes, but you don't have to. You can do training inside if it's raining, if it's cold, or if it's hot. It's just and it's so good for dogs. I did a podcast a while back on the myth of, am I stimulating my dog enough or exercising my dog enough? Aussies require a great deal of energy disbursement. So they're very high energy, high drive dogs. And, running the dog and doing all the ball things and frisbee things, yeah, that's fine, but not 100% necessary. And sometimes it has its own issues when you do that too much. But if you do things that exhaust their brain, challenge their brain, bring them their thinking mind, their into it, that can exhaust them physically as well. And it can disperse or discharge that energy just as much as exercising can. And so I,
Mhm.
always encourage people that are listening that have Aussies that have a lot of energy, find something that lets their brain work, you
Yes.
know. And if you work
Yes.
for a DNR or something like this, maybe you can get your dog in and start helping find some of these invasive bugs and plants and whatever else they're hunting down
Yeah.
in
It is. It's
agriculture.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if they're gonna, it brings up a thought. We have the New World screwworm situation.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if they're having any dogs
I
work
don't.
in that area.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's a lot of what they call the canine conservationists, the dog conservation dogs. Doing some kind of study on stuff like that. That's where they usually fall in. So I
Hmm.
don't know if anybody is down there working on that or not. It probably depends on if there's somebody in one of the universities that's doing a study and thought to try and incorporate the dogs into it.
Yeah, and I know that the areas that they're patrolling are huge, massive deserts, sort of pseudo deserts type areas of thousands
Right.
and tens of thousands of acres. So it may not be convenient to have a dog in some places, but maybe maybe in sale barns and livestock transition areas and stuff, that might
Right.
not be a bad idea. So,
Right. Kind of like the dogs that are up in the airports working
mhm.
on finding contraband fruit or whatever, animal parts or whatever somebody's trying to bring in on an
Oh
airplane.
my goodness, they're so creative in what kind of devious things they try to get in.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. It is.
They're always optimistic as well. Very optimistic people.
Yeah. Maybe the dog won't be there today.
Yeah, that or the machines now that can detect
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well,
Good
thank you
job.
for joining me. I really appreciate all the information and the stories you have to share. And if you have YouTube videos or anything you want to share with our audience, you're welcome to send that to me and I can put it up for you. But I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Enjoyed it.
Hey, and that's the show today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you really enjoyed it and got to learn something about this amazing breed, the Australian Shepherd. Join us on Facebook. We have a private group called the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. Join the group and join the conversation there. You can also find us online at theinstinctiveaussie.com. That's where you'll find all the show notes, the links to anything we talked about this show, and all of our past episodes. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you find your favorite podcasts, and that way you'll be the first ones to know as soon as an episode is uploaded. All right, everyone, I'll see you down the road.